Hello and welcome back to Mark's NOTCAST number 482. Today is Thursday, 26th of February 2026. And after yesterday's announcement, the good news that I have a book contract and a publication date and I am working at a furious, intense pace to meet that timescale, I am not today talking about a particular band or one of those ones where I have that huge cue sheet of information right next to me and I read off facts and figures about a pulp album from the year 2001. That is not it. Today, instead, I'm giving my brain a break and I'm doing something else. I am going to be answering questions from the Best of Smash Hits Silly Questions section. And I haven't seen these questions for years, so I don't actually know what questions I'm about to be asked. I suspect some of them will have aged like milk, but we're going to go in and we're going to find out. And you know, if you want to watch something about, for example, a band, there's about 400 other episodes you can do that for. So go and watch one of those, and I'll do this. And when my brain is less tired, I will talk more about bands. So let's go in. Are we sitting comfortably, kids? And let us begin. So the first question on here, and this is a bizarre one, is now this was asked of Joey Tempest from Europe. My word, that's how old this is. When you were young, did your mother ever lock you in your room with a plate of cold cabbage? My God, who thinks these questions? This is the kind of cutting-edge journalism that we really, really need in the world. We need those answers. So my answer to that is no. My mum never locked me in a room, certainly not with a plate of cold cabbage. There were discussions about me eating certain foods, and certain foods I wouldn't eat and certain foods I wouldn't like. And I think part of that is perhaps, and this is where I already mentioned the A word. If it's autism or something, I don't quite know, but I'm very particular about the foods that I like. And I look at carrots and I go, how can anyone eat those? Looking at it going, somebody thought they'd put that in their mouth and eat it and see what happens. I'm like, no. It's like, your tongue knows what everything tastes like right now. No matter where you are, let's say you're in the kitchen doing the washing up or doing some housework or pairing up some socks or something, I don't know. And you see, so right there, right in front of you, there is a steel sink. You know what that's going to taste like before you lick it. And your brain is going, don't do it. It's not right. It's weird. It'll taste like gunmetal. No. And I look at certain foods, and I go, why would anyone want to eat those? Just no. But that's beside the point. I was never locked in a room by my mum with a plate of cold cabbage, and I certainly there would be no reason to do that to me. So moving on to another important question, hopefully not asked of Joey Tempest. This one is Shane McGowan, which is, do you have a big mirror in your bathroom? Big-ish, I guess. Not like huge, but big enough that I'm able to look at my face. I'm able to see if I missed any bits when I'm shaving. Able to see any white hairs up my nose. Check that I've still got all my own teeth. I don't know. It'd be weirder if I didn't have all my own teeth and I had a mouthful of somebody else's teeth, right? Have that can of worms. But those are all kind of things where it's like, no, I've got a fairly big mirror so I can get a good idea of what I look like and my face and stuff. Or if I need to look at, my elbow, I can do that and have a real close look. But that's not, yeah. Lots of people do. So if you were a domestic appliance, what would it be? Oh, that's good. I'd not thought about that. I think Swiss Army knife, but I don't know if that classifies as a domestic appliance or an implement. And the reason I say it's a Swiss Army knife is because, firstly, the Swiss are super neutral about everything. Swiss people are lovely, and I've met loads of them. And also, the Swiss Army knife can do a lot of things. So I think that's my answer. But if I have to think something else, like a kettle, a fridge, I think it'd be a freezer, really. Cold, closed off, unavailable. Obviously, this is sarcasm, by the way, for those of you that don't speak sarcasm. I'd probably be... I think I'm going to stick with the Swiss Army knife, if that's okay. That question was asked of Kim Wilde, who wrote, I suppose I'd be a video, show some films and that, or a TV. Okay, that's a good answer. Do you know anybody called Igor? No, I don't. And I know some people with some uncommon names. I know a couple of people who they're the only people in the world with that name. If you Google your own name, for example, let's say your name is relatively common, it's pretty strange. I find out I'm an orthopedic surgeon in California, a NASCAR racer in America, an astrophysicist academic in America, a sculptor, for example, all those type of things. An avid football fan in my town who died last year as well. So, no, I don't know anyone called Igor. Question for Toya. Do you still sleep in a coffin? Obviously, I can't answer this because I never slept in a coffin. But the answer is no, I tend to sleep in a bed. Normally with a cat sat on me around about here, purring. It's quite nice indeed. What would you do if you were invisible for the day? Jimmy Somerville's answer is explicit, and I will not do that. So if I was invisible for a day, I don't actually know what I'd do. One of the problems with being invisible is that you can't actually see if you're invisible, because the light needs to reflect into your eyes, and if it goes straight through you, you can't see anything. That would be really, really difficult. So I don't quite know how that would work. Don't ask me how I know that. I googled it a long time ago and I've never forgotten it since. I don't know. There's a few politicians I don't like. Maybe I'd do something that meant that people wouldn't have a clue as to, who it was who offered them. I think that might be an answer, I guess. Is there anything more infuriating than putting on a duvet cover? Well, that was a question for Michael Hutchins, and his answer was the most infuriating thing is when you can't find a bottle opener. Well, that is pretty infuriating. Actually, for me, the most infuriating thing is when you put the USB stick into the machine and it's never the right size and you have to turn it around. That's one thing. Untangling cables, that is tedious. I've had some problems with HDMI cables recently. That's infuriating. Socks, pairing socks, oh, that is dull and infuriating, but it is an evil necessity of the modern world. And since I have approximately 40 pairs of identical black socks, that makes it quite easy because I never have to bother pairing them up. So yes, that is more infuriating than putting on a duvet cover, I think. Has Pete Burns got nice legs? Well, that is a question for Wayne Hussey, and the answer is I don't know, and I can't answer that, and I've never thought about his legs in my life. Have you ever been sick into a cowboy boot? That question was asked of Carol Decker from Tabao. No, I have never been sick into a cowboy boot or drunk anything from a cowboy boot. Or in fact, I don't think I've ever been near a cowboy boot. Certainly, I don't think I've ever touched one. If I ever have, it's been by accident and I've been stood next to somebody that's wearing them. No, never been sick into a cowboy boot. In fact, the last time I was sick, like vomiting through alcohol, was in my 20s. I was sick once, a few years ago now, maybe 15, 20 years ago, definitely in this house, but a long time ago in the noughties. And I was genuinely ill, and I can't remember what that is. Do you like Rupert the Bear? That's a question for Michael Jackson, and I don't think we should have his answer. Yeah, Rupert seems fine to me. I like him. Paul McCartney likes him. That's good. I'm on board with that. Yeah, fine, as long as he's a cool dude and he passes the 2 pints at a puppy rule. I'm good with that. Have you ever grown parsnips in a gumboot? No. What a strange question. Do you own a stuffed Alaskan timber wolf? That question was to Gary Newman, who does own a stuffed Alaskan timber wolf. I don't own a stuffed anything apart from some toys. In fact, I've got one here, which I wasn't expecting. This one actually is better and cooler, so I'll share that. I've got a Wally from Wally. Well, this is Evie actually. Wally is the garbage disposal thing. This is Evie, and I do like Evie. And after Wally came out in 2008, they made a lot of toys for Wally, and they thought, oh, they'll be, rare and worth something, and people will be, buying loads of those, and they weren't. And this, I think, I got from Poundland for about £1, maybe. I guess it would have been £1 from Poundland. But yeah, I've got a fluffy Wally. I've got a fluffy Marvin from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy film. I've got a teddy bear from when I was a kid. I've got a whole bunch of cute, fluffy stuff that's lying around. So that's my part. It's my party, and I'll cry if I want to, I guess, is the question. So the next question, and let me see if I can find it here, because I have looked at the wrong page. Amateur hour at the big top, isn't it, this? Right, so let's have a look and see where there you go. So the next question, back right to it. Do you believe in God? That is a really, really interesting question. Samantha Fox's answer is no one's taken a picture of him. Yeah, I believe that there is a spirituality and a universe and a greater presence and a higher power that exists beyond that which is perceived by human beings. Human beings, we have limited senses. So, for example, we can't see radio waves, we can't see television, we can't see Wi-Fi. So it would be very arrogant of us as a species to think we can detect everything. In the same way that man does not invent, he discovers, which is something that has always been there, in the same way that Everest was almost always there. Nobody invented Everest. They discovered Everest. The problem is, I think we haven't yet discovered irrefutable proof of God. Next week on Philosophy 101, by the way, we'll be talking about the nature of reality and consensus reality in terms of mental illness. No, we won't. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily believe in God, but there is most definitely a spirituality. There are souls, they exist, they survive death. I have had proof of that, and they are, it's a profound experience to have that moment. And so yes, there is not necessarily a God, but there is most definitely something that exists beyond the physical. Yes, a love stronger than death, as the Tears had it on their 2005 album. Let's bring it down a tone. And this is a question to Mick Jones. Aren't Big Audio Dynamite just a bunch of boring old punks? Well, nothing like that to bring you down to a different altitude. No. I mean, I think if I'd have been a different age, if I'd have been 10 years older, I think I would have absolutely adored Big Audio Dynamite in 1985. And I think that they were influential in ways that people don't necessarily fully articulate on acts like Beastie Boys, and therefore on other acts which are, followed subsequent to them. They're not boring old punks at all. No, there was a wonderful period in the late 80s where sampling technology and rock music were intersecting in a way that lots of people weren't necessarily thinking about, and then created great bands, not just Big Audio Dynamite, but Pop Believes Itself, Jesus Jones, to an extent EMF, Renegade Soundwave, creating sound collages of new pieces of sound and using a tapestry of audio to create something new. So no is the answer to that. Big Audio Dynamite, not boring old punks. What's your favourite Spandau Ballet record? Chrissy Hines' answer is, I wouldn't know one if it came up and wrapped me across the back of the thighs with a hairbrush. I agree. I couldn't recognise a Spandau Ballet record in a lineup. Is it true? Gold? Yeah, I don't have one. Have you ever worn a dress? So the answer from Neil Tennant of Pet Shop Boys is yes, when I was 13 in the school play HMS Pinafore. Yeah, I've worn a dress. I quite like them, especially in the summer. They are very free and very easy, and they're airy, they're not oppressive. They allow the body to breathe, especially in high temperatures. Haven't worn one for a long time, and it was always a matter of practicality. It's basically a dress is like wearing trousers or shorts, but without the individual legs, and obviously there's a genitals issue going on there. But no, see, there's a joke that women want things start with a P, and if they do, it's always pockets. That's what women need, pockets. Okay, we need pockets on dresses, and that's what's put me off wearing them more often, because I need pockets to put things in. You know, mobile phones, wallets, headphones. I have wired headphones instead of earpods, for example. Keys, things like that. We need pockets, people. We need more pockets. Have you ever found any silverfish in your mattress? Question to Mags of Aha. No, I haven't found silverfish in my mattress. I did see silverfish in an office once, and that was clamped down on pretty definitively. Yeah. And do you own a stuffed panda? I don't, but somebody in this house does, and he's about 16. What's your favourite Indian meal? Okay, so chicken tikka masala, naan bread, and sometimes an onion bhaji. Very British, very boring, quite bland, but very, very nice actually. Also, if you've got cold or flu or anything like that, the the spices in those will prevent mucus kind of forming in your nose. So it's always good if you've got a cold, have a chicken tikka masala. So there you go. Healthy and tasty, kids. Yeah. Why do you look like Jimmy Osmond? Well, that is a question to Joey Tempest, and since I don't look like him, I can't answer that. What colour is your bedroom wall? Well, yours is white. Mine is generally a kind of dark cream, and I don't have strong opinions about bedroom walls at all. A question to Paul Weller. Don't you think the Jam's Rick Buckler looks just like Dennis Waterman? Oof. Don't know is the answer to that. I think they're both dead now, so I can't really comment. Never given it any thought. What words do you find interesting these days? Well, Kate Bush says interesting and boomerang. I think the word beautiful is the most interesting word in the English language. It's my favourite word. And also, one of the most interesting words that there are is I should think of something witty. There's a German word, and I think it is something like Verschlusstrung, and it means making things worse by trying to make things better. But actually, one of my favourite words is portmanteau, and that means a combination word made out of two things. So, for example, the word catastrophic, which explains both a catastrophe and something that's fucked. This is a portmanteau. That's a very naughty word, but a portmanteau is a great word, and I do like it. Have you ever eaten a hamster? No. What kind of crazy person do you think I am? Really, you should be disgusted with yourself. What order do you take your clothes off in? Ooh. And now, if we're talking bedtime, sleepy time, night, bye-bye, generally it's my top, then it's my trousers, then obviously my pants, because I can't take my pants off before I take my trousers off. Last thing is the socks, because I've got cold feet. So yeah, that'll do. Rose from Strawberry Switchblade is asked, why are you so ugly? Oh, that's so harsh. Why do people think that that's an acceptable question to ask? What do you think about Mrs. Thatcher? Well, Samantha Fox was asked that question. My question is, not a fan, I think. Are you a vegetarian? No. Does it bother you that Howard Jones is better than you at water skiing? Well, I can't top Robert Smith's answer, which is not really. He can't do anything else, can he? Which I agree with. Can you mend a puncture on a bicycle tyre? Simon Libon has a voluminous answer, and the answer is short is yes from him. From me, I haven't had to do one for about 40 years, but if I needed to, I probably could. Have you got a Ronald McDonald toothbrush? That's a question to Suggs from Madness. No. Have you ever been sick in a kangaroo's pouch? My words, they really have a thing about being sick in unusual places, don't they? No, I haven't. In fact, I don't think I've seen a kangaroo in person in the past 30 or 40 years. I don't ever recall seeing one in person, so I can't really comment upon that. Chrissy Hind was asked, were you ever a cheerleader? No. Do you ever go a bit weird? Yes, except I'm not so weird to me, as Haruki Murakami says. I think that by some people's standards, I'm a bit Marmite. Some people really like me. Some people really don't like me. I can't change who I am. I'm not going to try to. the best thing that we can be is authentically true to our actual selves, and to know that person as best as it can be. And everybody is, if they are honest about it, a little bit weird in their own way, aren't we? And sometimes you need to embrace that and be into it. What's your favourite thing from your childhood that you've still got? Oh, this is good. This is really good. So I have kept a lot of my annuals. Star Wars annuals, Black Hole annuals, Indiana Jones ones. So every year, and this is one, by the way. It's the Best of Smash Hits annual. Came out around about, I don't know, I'm guessing December 2013 or thereabouts. So I'm just going to go and quickly check the date on that when this was published. It doesn't say. 2006. My God, time has collapsed. But in the days when Christmas was a big deal, the annual was a big deal, and you would have a hardback A4 book that you could read. I particularly liked the Marvel adaptations of films, which were, firstly, they kind of sold you as four kind of little graphic novels stroke comics, and then they would put it in a hardback form and it would become an annual, and that's where it would probably sell the most copies in the UK. I've got a lot of those from my childhood. I've got one for, although it's not the comic book adaptation, I've got one for James Bond's Moonraker. Actually, I'll go get them. I'll come back. Stay here. I'll be back. And thanks to the miracles of technology, I'm back in the room, and I have with me a selection of my childhood annuals that I've got from the other room. So this is one of them. This is Pet Shop Boys Annually from 1989, which I had on the birthday, or more correctly, my 15th, Christmas, December 1988, which retailed for a grand total of £3.95. And I think this is quite rare now, but this is effectively a 64-page hardback book about Pet Shop Boys that was sold in W.H. Smith's and became Christmas presents. So really interesting, those. I again absolutely love these to bits. That's the first one. I've got that. Yeah, I've had that since my childhood. This one I've had from my childhood as well. Although I can't remember if this is it. This is the Return of the Jedi pop-up book. In the days when you could, you open the book and then it would kind of bring forward for you various things. So, for example, and I should be really careful about moving this. This is so where you move things around and look, you can show that there's Jabba the Hutt. And things like that. These are the kind of things that I've got from my childhood. And when I was younger, and I was like, this stuff is amazing. Look at this. And I'm still pretty impressed about it. And I've got a job and stuff. But really interesting, these things, these annuals. And I kept a lot of them from when I was a kid. I kept a lot of my movie novelizations from when I was a kid. There were things that I always wanted that allowed me to live inside a world that I preferred to the one that I actually lived in. Oh look, oh, this is good, isn't it? So you've got the Ewoks there, that happening, and you've got this here, which is a battle between Darth and Luke. Look at that. Oh man, this stuff kept me so excited when I was like 10 years old. And then here is the explosion of the Death Star. Quite why the blockade runner is there, considering I never see the blockade runner in Return of the Jedi, and certainly not in close combat next to the Death Star. And then we've got this one here, other annuals that I have, and I'm going to have to turn these the other way round so I could go through them in broadly alphabetical order. This is an unusual one, the Black Hole Annual, 1981, one of my favourite films that tells the comic book adaptation of the film, and then it goes into what happens next, the journey to another planet where they encounter aliens at the other side of the black hole. Not a canon answer, I suspect. Given what happens in the film. I love this, The Raiders of the Lost Ark by Marvel and Grand Dreams UK hardback annual. This is the comic book adaptation, licensed to Grand Dreams, which costs £2.25, and features different things because it's based, and obviously, if you ever wanted to see what does a cartoon depiction of Nazis getting their face burnt off by vengeful angels look like, well, there's your answer. So that's one of my favourite things from my childhood. I also have Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Again, I think this is the comic book adaptation of it. I've been looking for a Last Crusade one and I can't find one. I'm not sure they made one. This was a present to me when I was about 19 from my then girlfriend, about one of my favourite films, The Magic Roundabout, Doodle and the Blue Cat. Here is the Moonraker Annual from 1978, where you can learn. Actually, let's see how much. Oh yes, see, they cut the price out, so you can't tell how much it cost. Naughty, naughty. But you know, you can have a look in there, and let's see if we can find out. You know, Spy Hunt, a game for 2 players, is interesting. And the James Bond novels, Facts on Ian Fleming, Confidential File on 007. For relaxation, he likes to have an occasional night at a casino, followed by a good meal and a bottle of wine, and then home to his collection of classical and blues records. It's almost as dreadful as listening to the Beatles without earmuffs, as Sean Connery said in Goldfinger. Here, this is a strange one. This one I picked up more recently. This is, of all things, the Planet of the Apes annual. Oh my giddy aunt, what was I thinking? That was about 50p. This is the Star Trek annual. I don't remember which year this is. It's the authorised edition as seen on the BBC, and again features comic book adaptations. I mean, all this stuff is starting to disappear. It would be great if people were able to, you know, keep and preserve that. Here is the Star Trek annual from 1976. Again, oh look, it's a monster. Beam me up, scut here. And again, it was just an excuse to reprint comic books and put them in hardbacks and then sell them for a grand total of, well, I can't tell you because someone's cut the price out. I got this recently. I had one as a kid. Star Trek, the motion picture, the comic book adaptation, £1.95. And yeah, some of my favourite things from my childhood, as you can tell by my vast enthusiasm. Star Wars Annual number 1. I got this in 2014. I went to Malvern, I think, and they had it in a charity shop, and I bought it right there and then. I did have it as a kid. The Empire Strikes Back annual. I think this is the comic book adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back. Yes, it is. The Return of the Jedi annual. I definitely had this as a kid. I remember being extremely, very impressed and thinking I was cooler than cool than Burt Reynolds. And then 1984's Return of the Jedi annual continues with non-canon rubbish that doesn't include Jackson. So there. Then I bought this one relatively recently, the storybook based upon the film of Return of the Jedi. And finally, another Return of the Jedi storybook. These might be the same, actually. I need to go and check if the inside is different from the outside. And the answer is, very quickly, they're exactly the same on the inside, but they've got different covers. That's what fooled me. So I've got 2 Return of the Jedi storybooks, 2 different editions. This is the Marks and Spencer version. This is the Random House version. If you're bored yet, if you're not bored yet, you soon will be. And finally, not a childhood annual, but the Take That 1994 annual that I was bought as a joke by Joe in 1994. God bless her. Thank you, very thoughtful of you. So there you go. Favourite thing I've got from my childhood. Wasn't expecting to go down that for 7 minutes, but there we are. Other questions. Did you have a wildly exciting job before the band started? Well, I think in terms of a wildly exciting job, obviously I'm not in a band. Did I have a wildly exciting job before this one? Not really, no. I was pretty lowly paid. In fact, I worked out I was the lowest paid out of anyone in Britain to do a certain job at a certain point. I decided it was time to go. Is it true, this is a question for Marilyn, is it true that David Bowie once gave you a love bite? No. What's your favourite breakfast cereal? Well, Annie from Amazulu's is Sugar Frosties. Mine is Shreddies, and they're very nice and they just keep me going. Are you a cricketing genius? No. Have you ever worn a kilt? Yes. What do you wear in bed? Naughty, naughty, shouldn't be asking. Do you often get recognised when shopping in Tesco's? Well, Susie Sue does. I'm not Susie Sue, so of course I get recognised. Nobody would care. Did you really once go to a fancy dress party as a car crash victim? No, I didn't, and that's a lie. Do you think you're good looking? Honestly, I make the best of what I've got, I think. But I've never thought of myself as good looking. You know, at best, I always think of myself as, yeah, average, okay. You know, when I had hair, it was hair that didn't do what I wanted it to do. Who do you not... That was a question, by the way, for Pal from Aha. Who do you not like? Well, that's a question for Mick Jokes, and he says hippies. Who do I not like? Well, I think politicians that preach grievance politics, I don't like them. People that don't understand detail and nuance are, I think, simple, and I don't like them. I don't like people that treat other people badly, and there are quite a few people that do that in the world. So, you know, if you're not a nice person, also people that don't talk to cats and dogs in silly voices, they worry me. Do you own a teddy bear? Yes, I do. In fact, I've got two of the same one, manufactured around about the same time. Does Prince know any good jokes? That's for Sheena Easton, and the answer is, I don't know. Certainly some of his songs, the humour that he shows in some of these songs, like, oh, no. So, should we scrap the royal family is the next question. Well, how long have you got? Yes, unreservedly we should scrap the royal family. The idea of a family that is somehow better than everybody else and should be born into immense power and wealth and almost always immunity from political prosecution, to be treated as somehow better citizens than anybody else, is inherently discriminatory and insulting. I get that if you're a member of the royal family, you don't ask to be born into the royal family, you don't have a choice about it, and effectively you're enrolled into a club you may never have chosen to be part of. But flip side of that is, as a member of the royal family, you are born into a world of physical and financial wealth and privilege beyond the understanding or comprehension of the vast majority of human beings. It allows people to indulge the worst parts of their personality, and as we have seen with the Prince, well, the Andrew formerly known as Prince, as we have seen, is that it can enable absolutely terrible behaviour by people that regard themselves as unaccountable. I don't think the royals are useful. They serve no purpose. They're staggeringly expensive. They're mostly useless. I think the country would be better without them. Or maybe we should reduce the British royals to the same status as most European countries, which is they bicycle around places and don't do very much. I think that's a fair statement. Full credit to William and Harry. I think that they're both trying to do the best that they can with a position and series that they would never have chosen. I have a lot of respect for Prince Harry. He has stood up and called out people on their bullshit when he needs to do so. And I think that is a brave and necessary step by him. And I think the way that the royals are treated by the press, gossip magazines and Channel 5 is fucking disgusting and needs to stop. And it perpetuates an abusive cycle that needs to end. Next week on Viva Regicide, we go for... actually, no, the next question is, what's the worst job you've ever had? Well, legally I am permitted or prohibited from telling you about the worst job I've ever had. So I can't really do that. Suffice to say, I have spoken to people who have met the person that is the boss there, and nobody I have ever met has a good word to say about that person. And I cannot understand how that person is still employed in a job. I have worked in some awful environments where corporations have enabled abuse, lies, fabrication of evidence, knowingly instructed people to perform illegal acts, which obviously is something that any employee should have the right to refuse, but has consequences. But I think what I'll focus on, and probably it's safer for me to say, is that I worked for an organisation over 30 years ago where I was paid £7,000 a year, and that is not very much money at all. It was the lowest salary of anybody in the UK for that particular role. the person in question, and the firm and the organisation didn't pay my national insurance, so I still don't have full national insurance, which is 30 years. They pretended to pay national insurance, and they just stuck it into their own bank account and hoped nobody would ever find out. They had somebody pour concrete through their letterbox whilst they were on holiday, and at the time it became known in the office that that is what had happened. The response from the staff that worked there was, "What took them so long to do it?" Is fair to say. And I remember I worked there when my mum died, and I had a week off on compassionate leave, and they said, if you don't come in on Monday, you're not coming in ever again. So I came in on the Monday, and my mum had been dead 9 days, and the first thing the person said to me was, "You don't look that upset." I could have reached up and punched them. It was incredibly cruel. And some of the people that work there went to jail for fraud. And it could have happened to a nicer person, is I think what I'm going to say about that. So that is my my questions from the Smash Hits Random Book of Things. And I'd like to thank my willing associate, Evie, here for helping me out. If you've watched all of this, great, thank you for listening. If you haven't, I can say whatever I like and you won't be watching, so it doesn't matter. But no, thank you for watching if you've made it through to the end. And take care of yourselves and each other, stay beautiful, and I will see you sometime soon. And in the meantime, have a good time all the time. Okay, bye-bye.